What's happening, Bengals fans? Inside the Jungle coming at you live here at CincyJungle.com. Fresh off a 37-37 tie ball game. That was fun, wasn't it, folks? I'm sure we'll hear from Bengals fans from around the world about how awesome that result was, what it means going forward, and we'll also look ahead to Sunday's huge AFC matchup against the Indianapolis Colts. Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Sterling, hanging out with my tag team partners, Anthony Cosenza and Scott Van Tels. Anthony, let's start with you. How was your weekend, man?
It was interesting. It was, got a couple of things done around the house and did my thing, and then watched the game, and didn't expect that outcome, that's for sure. I mean, if there wasn't a vested interest in the game from a fan standpoint, it would have been one of the more entertaining games I've seen. But, obviously it was kind of a bummer how it ended.
Should have been a win, but we'll talk about that. Of course, we'll get into the details a little bit later. Scott, how was your weekend? What is your initial thoughts?
Good. It certainly was not. I did not predict a tie, so I missed out on that one. I'm not sure if any of us predicted a tie in our preseason predictions, so count that as a loss for everyone.
And we welcome in the man fresh off his World Series party. He's drinking beers. I don't know if he's really drinking beers or not, but he's clearly excited, sporting his Kansas City Royals hat. The Royals going to the World Series, Mickey. Congratulations, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bandwagon, but Nick, I've kind of, but I've been a supporter, right? Like, this is a hat I bought because I thought no one would ever get mad at you because you're wearing a Kansas City Royals hat. And now it's pretty special. The cool part is, though, the father-in-law, who is the Kansas City tie, told me a couple weeks ago, if the Royals go to the World Series, we're in, and he has confirmed tonight that we are going to the World Series. So it's cool that I'm going to get to go to see a World Series game. It sucks it's not the Reds, but hey, I mean, why not, take a once-in-a-lifetime chance and go see a big game?
If the Royals can make the World Series, the Bengals can make the Super Bowl, right, Mick?
Yeah, it's going to happen, and I don't know, like, I was pretty salty about the tie until I logged in here, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, the Bengals should have won that game. It shouldn't have been there, but shoot, they didn't lose, right? They're still a one-loss team, top of the division. They still control their own fate, so there's definitely a lot of work to do, but they didn't lose.
No, they didn't lose, but it feels like a loss considering the fact that kick for any professional NFL kicker should be a kick that you make. And I kind of joked on Twitter on Sunday. I sent out a tweet that said Shane Graham could have made that kick. And our good friend Joe Reedy decided to tweet at me out of nowhere. Didn't know he followed me. He said, no, he couldn't. And notice I said could. I didn't say would. I said he could have made that kick. Let's get to our best and worst of Sunday, though. There were some good things to talk about. AC, I'll start with you. Give me your best and worst.
A lot of things to like, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to say the best of the weekend are just the big plays that we saw. We saw a long kick return from Adam Jones. We saw a nice touchdown catch from Mohamed Sanu and a nice touchdown run from Giovanni Bernard. So I would say the big plays on offense and the one big play on special teams were my best. Worst, I'm gonna have to say the defensive front. I know that's probably a kind of an afterthought behind some of the other big plays, the Nugent missed kick and all that stuff. But they were getting pushed back off the line quite frequently. Nobody had an answer for Cam Newton in the read option, especially late in the game. They looked gassed. They looked confused. They looked kind of downtrodden on themselves a little bit, and it wasn't the type of Bengals defense that we're used to seeing. So. Along with that, they weren't getting pressure on Cam Newton. So I'm gonna go with best being the big plays on offense and special teams, and then the worst being that defensive front.
How about you, Scott?
Best, I'm going to have to go with the offense as a whole. I think when you take a look at it and you look at the defense they were playing, it's not the same defense from last year, but it's still a worthy defense. And to do what they did, put up 37 points, punt just one time, missing A.J. Green, Marvin Jones, and Eifert and Zietler up front, that's a pretty impressive day from the offense. The bad, I'm going to cop out and say the defense as a whole, and maybe specifically Paul Gunther, like Anthony mentioned, their inability to stop Cam Newton on the read option was just mind-boggling to me. When you have a rookie named Fozzie Whitaker in the backfield, their game plan should have been do whatever you can to make Newton give the ball to Fozzie Whitaker. Just don't let Newton keep it. The guy that's going to hurt you is Cam Newton, not Fozzie Whitaker. So the fact they couldn't stop the read option was very disturbing.
How about you, Mick?
All right, so my bad is the defense as a whole, and I kind of agree with what Scott says, but it was still frustrating to see Fozzie, get chunks of yards against this defense. I just don't understand, how far we've come from how it looked like we were starting the season. I don't know the exact number, but we've given up like 90 points in 2 games. That's unacceptable. So that, as a whole, was my bad. My good, a little two-parter, Mohamed Sanu. I think he's stepped up when he's needed. Now he really is needed. And 2 is, how about, Adam Jones returning kicks? He showed it again. Like, he's just got that spark. He's old in NFL age, but man, it's just exciting to watch him return kicks, right? And he can say, yeah, I got some blocks, but he's shifty, man. He makes moves that Brandon Tate does not. But in saying that, I definitely don't want to diss Tate because I feel like he's done pretty well in the passing game when we've needed him. He's been available for some things. His calling is not a kick returner, and I think we need a little more Pac-Man. And my other bad, I'm going to throw in one more bad. Vontaze Burfict has to just zip it up a little bit. I think the penalties he was called for might have been bogus, but twists and ankles, that is pretty blatant what he did, and that's just stupid grade school stuff. He needs to stop that.
I'm going to tell you why he's a genius in a minute. I want to get into that, but first I'm going to give my best and worst. The worst for me got to be, dude, Nugent, kick your field goal. That's a 35-yarder, dude. You can make that in your sleep. If I have to give a worst B, that the middle of the defensive line is soft. Atkins, where are you at, dude? Petco, you're getting pushed 5 yards down the line every time. Every time. They have no depth in the middle. The loss of Brandon Thompson is really showing right now. They need to bulk up in the middle. So that's my 2 worst. My best, I hate to cop it out and say, look, it's the offense, but guys, they put up 37 points on a playoff caliber defense without A.J. Green, Marvin Jones, and Tyler Eifert. And Andy Dalton was spectacular. Yes, he had 2 interceptions. The first one, his arm got hit. The second one, the blitz was kind of in his face, and he overthrew it a little bit. But I still think he played well. He led the team down the field at the end of overtime to get them to a point where they could kick the field goal. He led them down the field at the end of regulation, and it's not his fault that the defense couldn't hold. It's not his fault that the referees blew the whistle on a lateral, which Dane Sansabacher would have picked up possibly a first down, and they could have run out the clock. And let's not even get started on the officiating because that was horrible in itself. 21 flags, both teams. That's not including the flags that were declined. So there were some positives to take from it. Again, 37 points against the Panthers defense. To me, that is pretty impressive. And so that's why I guess it feels like a loss. I want to talk about Vontaze Burfict. The reports are he's been fined $25 large for what he did to Cam Newton and Greg Olsen. First of all, Greg Olsen, I hope you don't have any defensive guys on your team doing something like that because I'm pretty sure everybody does it. I saw Justin Smith do it this week on Monday Night Football against the Rams. So just saying, now people are going to be watching out for your Panthers defenders, so beware of what you say. I think Vontaze Burfict is a freaking genius. What happens when you have players who punch or they kick at you? The referees always throw the flag on the second person, right? The retaliation. You notice both of those plays happened on touchdowns. So they would have tacked on 15 yards, which meant they would have had to kick the ball to Adam Jones, who, by the way, was spectacular. Now, I don't think he was purposely trying to hit them or hurt them, but I think he was trying to draw a 15-yard flag for the retaliation. That's why I think he's a genius.
That's an interesting take, and that's probably I'm going to be honest with you, Nick, that's probably the minority.
I know it is. But it's an interesting
Yeah, it is an interesting theory. I don't necessarily agree with it. I think if we know anything about Vontaze Burfict, he likes to play after the whistle, and I don't think his train of thought necessarily goes as far and as strategic as
Not
you
as
are
deep.
making it seem. Yeah, I think he's more of a guy that, hey, I'm gonna get in your head, and I'm gonna do so by maybe giving you a cheap shot, maybe giving you a little extra tackle, maybe lowering my head into you a little bit. I don't know that it was to give his team an opportunity on the ensuing kickoff. Honestly, I think it is what it looked like, and that is to try and potentially injure those guys and take them out of the game, and or even if it's for a brief period of time, because that defense was reeling. But that's my opinion. It's an interesting theory. I don't know what the other guys have to say about it.
I think Vontaze Burt.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, I think, the guy already has a reputation, and the officials flag him for everything he does. To draw more attention to himself is just idiotic. And, I hear people saying that, well, he's not that smart. Dude, that guy's brilliant. He's the quarterback of the defense. The two guys whose ankle he twisted were coming off ankle injuries. Vontaze Burfict knows that. That's quick thinking. That is a smart guy. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he just needs to cut that crap out.
I mean, I think he's more like that. He gets so amped, and he knows that he needs to be that guy to make the plays. That, I mean, the most telling part to me is that they both happened on touchdowns, and his frustration was there, so he did that. The other thing I wanted to add to kind of take a step back is we spent a ridiculous amount this offseason talking about Andy Dalton, and I think, Nick, he was one of your goods. The talk about Andy Dalton, this team, should be pretty quiet right now. Yet when they lose, I'm still getting blown up on Twitter about Andy Dalton and his 2 interceptions, which is just asinine, really. I mean, there's if that's your gripe, like you're missing the whole game. So I don't want to throw Andy Dalton out as my good, because I think that there was some more, this sounds stupid, but there was some better good than Andy Dalton. But I really love the role he's starting to play. Like, do you remember last year when the Bengals would be in a situation where the game's on the line? I feel like a lot of Bengals fans would hold their breath and be like, man, Andy, don't make that mistake. Honestly, in this game, I was waiting to see that 43-yard pass over the shoulder to Sanu again. Like, I was waiting for Andy to step up and make that throw, and that is a 180 from what we had last year. So, I mean, I do kind of like where we're at with that. It just stinks that our defense, it seems like it's taken a step back when the biggest question mark of the offseason is kind of answering his critics.
I think he's done a great job here through 5 games. I think he's probably been the best quarterback in the division. I mean, Joe Flacco had a pretty good day on Sunday against the Bucs. With that said, though, I think he's played the most consistent through 5 games. And he's only been sacked twice, which for a banged-up offensive line as well, missing their best right guard and starting a rookie center, that's pretty good as well. So yeah, I haven't been seeing the Dalton talk as much. Maybe that's because they know you're the Dalton lover, Mickey, and so they tweet at you. But I haven't seen it as much. It seemed to have calmed down. The biggest gripe that I've seen is just the fact that after 3 games, this defense was on. You couldn't beat this defense, and now this defense has given up 80 points in the last 2 weeks, and they cannot stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Nothing seems to be going right. So, Anthony, I'll start with you. Is this a case of teams now finally getting some tape on Paul Guenther and catching up to his tendencies?
I think it's a variety of factors, personally. I think that you have Geno Atkins still not at 100%, and he has been, before that injury, he was the key of what this defense does, especially up front. And he is a twofold player. He's very disruptive in the run game, and he can definitely stack the passer, and I think the Bengals missed that. They missed that presence, veteran presence off the edge in Michael Johnson. Even though he only had about 3 sacks last year, he still was a solid player for a long time for this team, and I think they miss him a little bit. Brandon Thompson, I don't see the impact that other people are seeing with him. the only impact I think he has is that he is able to spell Pico a little bit more and spell Geno Atkins a little bit more, give them a little bit more rest. I don't think it's anything that has to really do with Guenther's scheme, and I look at it a little bit. I wrote it in an article that I posted in the chat room, and I posted it the other day on the website, just really quick. If you look back to a couple of years ago in 2012 and even a couple of games in 2013, there was a couple of games in a row where the Bengals defense were getting gashed, and it wasn't even by great teams. In 2012, it was against the Redskins in that read option offense there. They let up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And they had 2 poor games against the Cleveland Browns with Brandon Weeden at quarterback. So, I think there's still time to right the ship, but they need to get guys healthy. They need to get guys 100%, and they need to get guys playing just better football in general. They look a little lost at times out there.
Lemur with an injury, Maluga with an injury, Scott. I don't want to make excuses, but the lack of depth at linebacker may come into play as well. We haven't. Last I checked, I haven't seen any new news as far as linebackers coming in. But what do these 2 injuries do for this defense that's already given up a lot of yards lately?
Yeah, I mean, I said it this week in a post online. The injuries are really starting to become a big thing with this team. They're already thin at defensive tackle. We're seeing that with the run game and the pressure on the quarterback. It sounds like Lemure is going to be out at least this week. Maluga's out for some time. I like Vinny Ray, but he is a backup, so you are taking a step back. And you're looking at a linebacking crew this week of, I'm guessing, maybe Marquise Flowers, Burfict, and Vinny Ray. That scares me a bit going up against a guy named Andrew Luck. So these defenses the injuries on the defense are really starting to take a toll, especially coming at one position in the linebacker position.
We also saw a lot of Jason DeMonch this weekend as well. Normally a special teamer, but he got some action there with the defense. Mickey, we've been fortunate that the injury bug hasn't caught up to the secondary, and Jones and Newman and Leon Hall have been in there and they've played okay of late, but they're still giving up some passing yards. But is that due to a lack of pressure from the front 4?
I don't know, Nick. I mean, you just kind of stole my thunder. That's what I say all the time. But it just seems like we talk about it on the offensive side a lot. It seems like they're pressing, right? Like guys maybe trying to do more than what their assignment is. But, man, we sound awful bitter for a team that's winning their division. You know what I mean? You remember 2 weeks ago the Patriots were done. They were not going to make the playoffs, and then they turned it on. There was a bad stretch. The Bengals are just getting whooped by the injury bug, but they're not dead. The biggest question mark I think right now that we should legitimately have is the play from our defense, because we are, quote unquote healthier on that side of the ball than we are on our offense, yet we're getting gashed, like Anthony said. That's what's surprising to me. And heading into Indy, can we really, hope to contain that offense? But in the same breath, I mean, it's the NFL. Anything happens. Like I said about the Patriots, they were down and out, had no shot, and then they just turned it on. So I really think these next couple games are going to show us what the Bengals are. Are they the team we saw in the beginning of the season, or were they just lucky at the beginning of the season and now we're seeing where they're at? It's amazing that I saw on Cincy Jungle today people with the tag fire Guenther, because after the first couple of games, yes, you can look in the comments. There's at least 4. It's insane how fickle we are as fans, but we're still a first-place team. I don't know. Like I'm not mailing any letters. I'm not closing any books. I still think this team's good. I am a little nervous about the defense.
Fire Guenther after 5 games. Okay. All right. And that's with Vontaze Burfict missing a couple games here and there due to his wacky play, throwing his head around everywhere. Geno Atkins still coming back from a pretty significant injury. Anthony, I think you were the one who wrote on Cincy Jungle either today or yesterday about the real which Bengals team is this. The defense, the first 3 weeks looked great. The defense the last 2 weeks has not. What's your take? What do you think?
Yeah, I that's the one I posted in the chat room as well. Really, the big difference that I see is turnovers forced, sacks that they've gotten on the opposing quarterback, and then obviously the point differential. They were I don't have it exactly in front of me at the moment, but they were like plus 46, I want to say, through those first 3 weeks in point differential, and they're like minus 26, 28 in these last 2 games, which is pretty terrible. So you see the correlation lies, at least in the chart that I provided on that post there, was really with the sacks of the quarterback and with the turnovers forced. I think they forced 8 in those first 3 games, and they forced 1 in the last 2. So that's not getting it done, and you can tell that. I mean, you hate to put the onus just on the defense, but like Mickey said, there are a few less injuries on that side of the ball, and the majority of the points are being let up there. Andy Dalton's not throwing pick sixes. They're not really throwing. They're not fumbling the ball away in their own territory. I mean, Dalton did have a couple of interceptions last week that hurt him a little bit, but I attribute it mostly to the defense the last couple of weeks. I think you have to.
37 points you score at home against a playoff team, and you tie, but it feels like a loss. I want to get to some other things. I want to look ahead to Sunday's game against Indy, and also some of the news that we got today or this week regarding some new players heading into Paul Brown Stadium. But wanted to get your take. I know we are the biggest Brandon Tate fan club in the world here on Inside the Jungle, but have we seen the last of him at kick returner, Scott? I think Adam Jones shows you why he needs to be back there.
No, for the simple reason that that's just not the way this coaching staff operates. I mean, common sense says yes, but this coaching staff, you're going to see him back there. It's the same reason you're going to see Mike Nugent kicking this weekend in Indy. They don't like to make changes. It's the same reason you saw Kyle Cook stay at center when he was slacking. It's the same reason you saw who was before Cook, who was struggling at center. They just don't like to make changes. I don't understand it. Pac-Man should be, or Adam Jones should be the one back there all the time, but I don't think he will be. I think he's going to be used, in situations, but not all the time.
Mick, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with. I mean, Scott pretty much said what I thought. Yeah.
So you think Tate will be back at some point?
It's baffling to me how this coaching staff sticks with things when it's obvious that they don't work, right? So what more do we need to see from Adam Jones returning kicks? And I don't really see his role. I mean, I understand I can't remember the part of the game, Nick, but he came off the field and was kind of rubbing his eye like he got something in his eye. So I understand why maybe he won't, take the next play, return the kick. But he should be the primary guy, and Tate should be the guy spelling him. I don't understand with what they've seen why they're doing that. But based on that, that's why I don't think there will be a change.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because the team always says, well, we don't want Adam Jones returning kicks because he might be a little bit more prone to injury and we need him to play corner. Well, now the team has experienced a lot of injuries on the wide receiver and front, and they're relying more heavily on Brandon Tate in that respect. So does that mean they're going to take away some of that responsibility from Tate, especially when you see Jones breaking off big plays? Nick, I've said this a couple of times on the show. I am a person, especially in football, when you have 16 games to play the best that you can, you have to play your best players in the best situations to create the best matchups possible for your own team. And to me, Adam Jones returning kicks at least most of the time creates the best opportunity for this team to create big plays, better field position for the offense, whatever it may be. And for whatever reason, they want to continue to trust Brandon Tate in that kickoff and punt return duty more than Adam Jones.
I think we know my thoughts on this. I've made it very clear over the last 3 seasons that I would like to see a change at kick return. Look, Adam Jones changed the game. The momentum was swinging the other way. After the Bengals had the lead, the Panthers had scored, I believe, 14 straight points. It might have even been 17 straight points. And yet, Jones gets the ball in the kickoff return, and he didn't score. And I think a younger Adam Jones might have scored a touchdown on that play. But he changed the momentum. He changed the game, and the Bengals were right back in it on the next play. And that's why, I wish that they would just take a look. And, for whatever reason, they just kind of enjoyed the status quo at kick return. And it's, again, we're nitpicking here about a kick returner. There's so many other issues with this team right now. We saw this week Marvin Jones has been added to the injured reserve list after it sounds like he's going to need ankle surgery for an ankle he injured in the spring. So, Scott, why is it just now taking so long for them to realize, we probably should have had surgery on this ankle in the first place? I didn't even know he had injured it in the spring.
Well, I think there's been long-standing questions about the medical staff of this team. You go back to the Chris Perry's lingering injuries. You go back to Levi Jones' lingering knee injury in the past. And this, I don't think it's the same medical staff, but it certainly has been questioned in the past. And this is another one that, from what I read, they're now saying they think the broken foot was partially the result of him overcompensating for this ankle injury that apparently occurred back in February, and just makes you question how did this go unnoticed from February until this time point. Surgery should have been an option then in the off season, and instead you're left with this situation, and you get Greg Little.
Greg Little, the newest Bengal, Mickey, a guy who couldn't catch a cold in Cleveland. I kind of joked with some Browns fans who live up here, or where I'm at here in Toledo, that I don't expect him to play or make much of an impact here on this offense, or even dress possibly. Just one of those guys that they add, they need the bodies. But I'm wondering, could he return kicks? It's Greg Little. It's not a whole lot to get excited about.
Right, you think about a receiver, a deep roster receiver, it's depth. It's probably not a guy that's going to be active. Probably a guy that they may look at it, special teams, hands team kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't see it as any more than that. They also worked out. I just blanked. Pryor.
Yep.
Yeah. And what role does that really fill? You know what I mean? But it. I don't know. I feel like that news always gets blown up a little more when your team feels like it's struggling. So, NFL teams work out people all the time. I don't know that either one of those guys would make an impact, but you got to keep a roster. They also, I should know more. They also just signed a linebacker off of Kansas City's practice squad, which means he will be in the 53. But I don't know that he. That's definitely probably a special teams play, right?
Yeah, because they're going to have to promote probably DeMonts to play a little bit more on the linebacking as far as the defense goes with the injuries to Lemur and Maluga. AC, your thoughts on Greg Little? Again, he played in Cleveland. In Cleveland, they weren't exactly the best team. Maybe didn't have the best coaching, didn't have the best quarterback. Maybe now he comes to Cincinnati, a fresh start, and lives up to the first-round talent that everybody thought he could be.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the measurables when he came into the draft, and he was kind of off the charts. He's a big guy and had good speed. He fell, I think, in the draft a little bit because he was a little bit raw, and I think some of those drop issues were shown on film, and I think that's why he fell a little bit. But he had some good moments in Cleveland, but he had some other bad moments, especially towards the later part of his tenure there with drops and whatnot. But he was relied on, especially early, as one of their top receivers. So maybe him being down in the pecking order a little bit, where he's not relied on so heavily, maybe that allows him to develop, get in a groove a little bit, find his niche. Maybe some better coaching that's in Cincinnati than in Cleveland, and a better quarterback situation will help. You gotta hope that that's the case. I saw an interesting comment on the website today from somebody saying, I'll take my chances on him. He's 25. He's built, and he looks the part. Let him come here and play a little bit and see if he can develop into something at least halfway decent. So I'm not as cynical as the other people about it, even though I made a joking tweet about it after I heard the signing. But it is what it is. He's probably not going to be too high up on the depth chart.
No, but he could probably fill the role, if they need to, of the Marvin Jones role. And we've seen Marvin Jones with issues with his hands as well. Likes to let the ball get into his body a little bit. So, I'm not saying he's going to be a replacement. I mean, we're talking about a 10-touchdown guy from a year ago. But at the same time, if he lives up to that first-round potential and can make an impact and shift some defense away from A.J. Green, and believe it or not, we haven't even touched on it, and I wish we had more time. Jermaine Gresham had a pretty good day on Sunday. It's nice to see him get more involved. It's taken him 5 games, but it's good to see him get involved. And we saw James Wright at the end of the game, the last play, make a great catch. And here's a guy the Bengals got and are thinking that maybe he could do some things as well. So, again, we look at this, 37 points at home should win you a game. It feels like a loss because they had a chance. But, look, they're still 3-1-1, first place in the AFC North. And still a pretty solid team if they can just figure things out defensively. We'll shift gears. We'll talk a little bit about the Colts, but we also want to hear from you, Bengals fans. Get in touch, 404-946-3397. Let's start off with the Bang tonight. John from Kentucky, what's up, bud?
Hey, good evening. Thanks for taking my call, Nick. I'm on the road tonight, but I'm pulled over and listening to the podcast. Scott, just a minute ago, he hit the nail right on the head. Cincinnati is probably the worst team in the NFL as far as making changes. They've been this way for the last 25 years. Why isn't Adam Jones back there returning kicks? Well, I will say, if you have Jones return every kick and he gets hurt, then, he can't play defense. So that might be partially the reason. But he certainly should be getting more kicks than he does. He ought to at least get a couple a game. Secondly, it breaks my heart to have to say this. I was at a Bengals practice 3 years ago, and Domatan Peko made a great play in practice, and I just hollered out his name, Peko, real loud. He turned around, didn't know me from Adam, but he gave me a high five. He's a nice guy. But, Nick, just watching, the guy is bad. And he looks to me like he's out of shape. That's my opinion. He does not look like he's in good physical shape, and it looks like my grandma could push him out of the way, and other teams know this, and they're just running right through the Bengals' defensive line now. And you had a caller last Sunday that said, as long as that's the case, and, the last 2 teams they played have put up, I think, 80 points. If that's going on, it doesn't matter what the offense does. They can score all day. If the defense is just going to turn right around and let the other team get a touchdown, the Bengals will do good to win 8 games this year. So, but going back to the original point, what Scott said, that's the problem. It's been that way for years. Look at our head coach. He's been here for ages. The Cincinnati, I don't know what it is. They're the worst bureaucracy in the NFL.
Well, yeah, I mean they definitely aren't quick. They don't succumb to the knee-jerk reaction. I mentioned it on Sunday during the post-game show. I guaranteed that Mike Nugent would be your kicker this weekend, although everybody was calling for him to be cut and bring in some new guys this week. And Marvin was pretty quick to dispel that and let everybody know that Nugent was the guy. So you're right. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of changes, but sometimes you just got to wonder where could this team be if just a slight adjustment is made here and there. And I see what everybody's talking about as far as if Adam Jones gets hurt returning a kick. It's not like they don't have depth in the secondary. I mean, they've got 2 first-round draft picks sitting on the sideline not doing anything.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. I don't know. I mean, we do have a lot of injuries. We know that. We just signed Greg Little. Greg Little's notorious for dropping passes, but I did read in an article, I think from Josh Kirkendall, or maybe it was Anthony, I'm sorry, But Greg Little, he dropped like 8 passes. 8 passes, that's a lot of passes to drop. But he was being thrown to by Jason Campbell and Brandon Whedon. So now that he's got Dalton throwing to him, I don't know if that'll change things or not.
We shall see. We shall see. Hey, John. Well, safe travels, John. Appreciate the call. All right, bud?
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, bold prediction. Mike Nugent misses 3 field goals in Indy.
All right. Thanks, John.
Not very bold either. All right. See you.
Bye. Oh, I love it. I hope that's not the case. Perfect conditions. The roof will probably be closed there in Indy. No excuses. That's funny. I don't even know where to go from there. Thanks, John. Appreciate the call. If you want to get in touch, 404-946-3397. Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts. Number 1 in offense, best passer in the league in Andrew Luck. Two-headed rushing attack in Trent Richardson and Ahmad Bradshaw guys against a defense that is being gashed on the ground. Your thoughts, Anthony Cosenza. Is this going to be ugly?
It could be. Going through the schedule when we did all the win-loss predictions, I picked this one as a loss for the Bengals, I believe. So, with all of the injuries stacking up and them kind of trending downward at the moment, it's hard to see them going on the road where they play, less. They play lesser football than at home, and coming out with a win. That's a pretty good team. But Indianapolis, I believe, started off at least 0-1, if not 0-2 to start the season. They weren't playing that great, and all of a sudden they're on a 4-game win streak. So, the football's kind of a funny thing, and you never know when it's going to turn your way. I'm not too scared of the running game. What I'm scared about is Ahmad Bradshaw coming out of the backfield and catching footballs. He has been excellent in that respect this year with Andrew Luck, and he's actually one of their top receiving touchdown players on their roster, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's going to be a difficult matchup. I'd probably anticipate a shootout in this one. I don't think Indianapolis has that great of a defense, but now you're looking at some valuable players on both offense and defense being out of this game for the Bengals, and that doesn't bode well for them.
Dave Black in the chat room, Mickey, says Andrew Luck runs read option at least 6 times, gets at least 50 yards. Now, he's no Cam Newton, but he has shown the ability to move the sticks and run with the ball. Are you concerned about him at all as far as the running? We know he's gonna throw for a lot of yards, but he's still able to move the ball with his feet.
I'm not worried about him at all. And Dave Black, I think, is he might be a little tipsy right now. I don't know. I feel like Dave Black, and I don't know anything about him than the chat room stuff I've seen tonight, but I'll lump him in with my man John from Kentucky. They're those Bengals fans that almost seem like they enjoy it when there's a struggle. You know what I mean? Like, his bold prediction is doom and gloom for the Bengals. You know what I mean? Like, seriously? So who have the Colts beat? Let's see. They beat some juggernaut teams like the Titans and the Jaguars and the Texans. Their only quality win is against the Ravens, who the Bengals also beat. So, I mean, are we really that scared of a team that, has no quality wins? Nothing better than we have? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sick and tired of the collective Bengals fans waiting for the other shoe to fall. Like, why can't the Bengals, button it up? Why can't they, pull out the win? Indy's a road game, but barely, right? Like, every single player could drive there in the morning and get there the same time, even though they'll be in the hotel. I'm not scared of Luck running the ball. I'm not scared of Luck throwing the ball. I think this is going to be a game where the Bengals match up well against the team they're playing.
All right, Mickey's confident, Scott.
I think this is going to be a game where you'll see Vegas overreact, and there will be a pretty big spread between the Colts and the Bengals. But I'm a little bit with Mickey on this one in that I don't think it's necessarily that bad of a matchup for the Bengals. I don't think the Colts have a great defense. This is an offense that should be able to put up points against the Colts defense. The running attack. The running attack doesn't scare me. Bradshaw coming out of the backfield does a little bit. And Luck does have great numbers this year, but he also has 7 picks, so he's on pace for 19.
He does lead the league in interceptions. So,
Kirk Cousins has 1 more. So,
okay, well he did at one point.
he's right up there. Either way, neither is a good number. But so even though his touchdown numbers are up, his interceptions are too. So this is a secondary that could make some plays on Luck as well.
I'd like to hear your thoughts, though, Bengals fans. Get in touch, 404-946-3397. Let's welcome in Fatal Content here on the Skype line. Fatal, what's up, man?
Hey, gentlemen, what's up? Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you loud and clear. Your boy LeBron's playing in Cincinnati right now. I know you're a huge Cavs fan.
Oh, yeah, LeBron, that guy. Yeah, he's great.
What's on your mind, man?
Wait, hold on a second. Oh, no, I thought I was just making sure that the refs weren't calling another penalty on the Bengals. Had to check. Pretty
rough.
Checking. Yeah, man, it was rough. But look, it's time for the optimistic Bengal to call in, man. Listen, Bengals fan, I'm not nervous one bit. Listen, I saw the Seahawks defense get beat up by the Chargers, and this week by the Cowboys, and yet I see people. Oh, do they have a chink in the armor? Have we given up a lot of points the last 2 games? Is it excusable? No. But I've seen great defenses get carved up this year. It happens. It's the NFL. I mean, this year there's more parity than I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I'm really not nervous. It's like Mickey said. It's like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it's incredible. This defense has shown the knack to bounce back all these years, and I believe this is the first time we've been carved up like this in about 6 years. So I mean. They'll get it together. They'll get some guys back, and things will get better. I'm really not worried about the Colts. Everybody makes it seem like we're about to face the undefeated Patriots from a few years ago. I don't understand it.
Your boy Andy Dalton, though, Fatal's a pretty good start to the year. Five games in, playing well, leading the team, and now he had a couple interceptions over the weekend, but still he got them in position to win that game.
Yes, he did. And Andy Dalton was the man. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Could he be a little bit better in terms of stats, touchdowns, maybe? But you have to look at the lack of weapons. The fact that he's playing the way he's playing without his weapons is pretty darn incredible. But I just wanted to say that this last week was insane on so many levels, and I wanted to speak to you guys if you guys noticed. The one knock, the coaching staff was pretty good this week, but the one knock I have on both teams was the lack of aggression, man. The complacency when I believe the Panthers got the ball back in overtime and they were driving on us. It was 4th and 1 or 2, and they freaking settled for the field goal and thought, well, the Bengals are gonna get the ball back. We haven't been able to stop them, so we'll settle for this tie. And when we get in field goal range with 40-something seconds to go, instead of maybe taking a shot at the end zone or getting closer to make it a little bit more of a gimme, we settle. So I don't know if you guys noticed. I want to get your thoughts on what you guys thought about both coaches being timid at that point.
AC, start us off.
Well, yeah, you could point at the coaches or you can point at both teams' defenses. I mean, neither team seemed like they wanted it. I mean, right when a team would score, it seemed like the other team would go and respond with a score, either go ahead or tie. And that part of that is coaching, part of that is desire on the defensive units for both teams, and part of that is probably injuries as well. So, I agree with you, Fatal, but I think there's a couple of factors at play aside from coaching, and you know me, I like to criticize coaching quite a bit, but yeah, I saw it, and it's kind of funny. It's almost like the tie itself was poetic justice for the way that the defenses played that, and the offenses too, in a way, how everybody played that day, because nobody seemed to really want to take that game and win it.
Yeah, it was. Hindsight's always 20/20 too, Fatal. So you're right, but a 35-yard field goal. I mean, that's a chip shot, dude.
Nick, I got to jump.
Did it end up being a chip shot?
No, true. I mean, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say I got to jump in here and defend Mike Nugent from our panel kicker. Nugent was the end result of them losing the game, but let's not forget that he made what should have been 2 game-winning field goals, and the defense blew it both times by giving a field goal back up. The thing that drives me nuts is Pac-Man Jones's comment after the game of "do your job." Well, damn it, if the defense did their job, they wouldn't have given up 37 points, and the game would have been tied. If the defense did their job when Mike Nugent made the kick at the end of regulation, the Bengals win. If the defense did their job when Mike Nugent made the field goal in overtime, the Bengals win. So, Adam Jones can point the finger all he wants, but his defense did not do the job. And, Mike Nugent needs to make that kick. He shouldn't be returned to the team this week, but he is. But Mike Nugent was not the reason he lost that game. The defense is what lost them that game.
Spot on, Scott. I think you agree with that, right, Fatal?
Yes, sir. Scott hit it right on the head. It's bigger than just one play. It's bigger than officiating. We should have overcome it. Great game this week, man. I think we're gonna handle the Colts. I think we handle them easily, and here's to that happening.
Appreciate the call, Fatal. We'll talk to you Sunday after the game, all right, bud?
All right, guys. Hooday.
Hooday. Fatal on the Skype line giving us a ring. Get in touch, Bengals fans, 404-946-3397. We've got about 10 more minutes left in the show if you want to get in touch. I see what you're saying, guys, as far as it's not just the defense. The offense let them down, too. There was a touchdown that was called back on a penalty, though might have been bogus. But then the very next play, Andre Smith gets a false start. And that puts him back even further from getting a first round. So there were a lot of things you could point to that cost them this game on Sunday, and it's very unfair to point the blame at Mike Nugent. But, again, a 35-yard field goal he can make in his sleep, and we all know that. We definitely all know that. All right, it's time now for one of our favorite parts of the show.
Hey, ladies, quit your babbling, because now's the time in the show when all the boys pull out their cojones and make bold predictions.
I've already heard one bold prediction tonight from John from Kentucky. He says Mike Nugent misses 3 field goals. But I want to hear from you, Bengals fans. What's your bold prediction? Let us know in the chat room. Or if you want, you can always email them or tweet your bold predictions to me at Nick Superling. Start off with you, AC. Give us something bold, man.
Well, if I remember correctly, I might be just selective memory here, but I think I was pretty close last week. I think I picked the running backs to go off quite a bit, and they were both pretty productive. So I'm going to go with the quarterback this week. I think he gets in a shootout with Andrew Luck. I'm going to say 400-plus yards from Andy Dalton, 4 touchdowns, 0 turnovers.
Wow. All right, I like it. Bold. How about you, Mick?
Nick, has Mike Nugent ever missed 3 field goals in a game?
Yes, he did in the first game against Baltimore. Right? No.
No. He did in the second game against
Atlanta.
And how'd that work out?
They won.
So I kind of hope that happens just to rub it in John from Kentucky's face, but it won't. I like AC's bold prediction. Mine's going to be that we have a 100-yard rusher in the running game, and it's not Giovanni Bernard.
Who will it be? We won't hold you to it.
Who do you think it'll be, Nick?
Rex Burkhead.
What's my options?
Mohamed Sanu.
Yes, maybe. That could happen.
It could happen. I want to talk about that running game before you get to yours, Scott. You take away Bernard's 89-yard run, and he has almost... Go ahead.
Which was sick.
Yeah, it was a great run, and we haven't seen that in a really long time here in Cincinnati. But you take away his 89-yard run from the 137 he had, and his average big-time decline. Not great.
But you can't. But it's like saying take away the slugger's home run, and that's what he's. You know what I mean? Like those runs don't happen. I'm going on my soapbox now. We're in a video game fantasy football world. 90-yard runs don't happen. Like it's pretty rare, and that was something special we got. and sure, I mean, yeah, maybe take away that his stats aren't as good, but man, that was sick, and that at the time that was huge for the game. But no, I honestly think that we have the advantage in this next game on the ground, and I think we play a classic AFC North style game against the Colts in their house, and our line just dominates theirs, and we run the ball, and I think Giovanni Bernard's not going to be the workhorse in this game.
Going to run the ball too, Scott, to keep the ball away from Andrew Luck. What's your bold prediction for this week?
I'm going to say the Bengals hold the number one offense to under 20 points, and they force Luck to throw more interceptions than touchdowns.
Solid. That's very solid. The last time a hot offense went up against the Bengals defense, I believe, was when Atlanta came to town after they had scored, I think, 37 against the Saints in Week 1. And what did the Bengals do? They nearly shut them out. Now, I'm not going that far, but I will say this. I think the Bengals, considering they've given up an average of 40 points the last 2 weeks on defense, I'll say that they hold the Colts to less than 17. That's my bold prediction. Let's hear yours, though, Bengals fans. I want to see some of yours in the chat room. Fatal's bold prediction, he says, Colts get 250 total offensive yards. We dominate that offense. All right, Jungle Line we go. Area code 817. Hi, who's this?
Hey there, this is Grant calling from Dallas. How are you guys doing?
Hey, Grant from Dallas. What's on your mind tonight?
I have Geo in my fantasy league, and the site I use has been showing him out all day long. And have you heard any rumblings of that?
Well, I've heard that they are concerned about an injury that he picked up late. Now, he did come back in the game at the end of the game, in overtime. But I have not heard any more specific news related to Bernard himself. Guys, maybe have either of you three heard anything about Bernard's status for the weekend?
I personally have not. Yeah, I have not heard anything about that, but I'll take a look and see if I can find something.
Yeah, that's huge. And I thought if y'all knew, y'all would be all over that this hour. That would be the big talk. So I'm hopeful that it's an error and that he's indeed not out. So.
Go ahead, AC.
Oh, I'm sorry. The one thing that I can think of is last week he got tackled pretty hard late in the game, if you remember, and he was holding his shoulder and or collarbone area. He did return to the game after that, so maybe he has some kind of shoulder issue. I'm still kind of looking, but I do remember that being a problem where he left the game for a little bit. I think it was third or fourth quarter, but he did return later on.
I mean, he took a shot. He took a shot early in the game, and then Kuechly absolutely just crushed him on that hit when he eventually just stayed on the ground. But yeah, Grant, hopefully, we need him. I like what Jeremy Hill's doing, but we definitely need him, especially when you consider we may or may not. It's probably looking a little slim that we don't have A.J. Green as well on Sunday.
Yeah, that would be huge. And I just thought y'all already heard rumbling or had some info if he was definitely out. So hopefully it's just an error, and hopefully he'll be back for the game in Indy. But thanks very much, guys.
No problem. Keep it tuned into Cincy Jungle for more updates, Grant. I'm sure we'll have info as soon as we get it posted on our website. Appreciate the call. Houday from Dallas.
Houday, man. They're getting crazy here, man. I've been hearing Super Bowl all week. I'm like, slow down, people. Slow down.
I'm sorry you got to deal with that. But it's been about 20 years since they've been relevant anyway.
Yeah, hype is. I mean, they're all believing here, but we will see if our heads have gotten a little ahead of us, and so big game Sunday. So, anyways, guys, thanks a lot. Like the show.
Appreciate the call. Thanks, Grant. Appreciate the call, Houday. That's Grant from Dallas. First time, long time, I guess. Maybe not long time. I'll just say first time. here on Inside the Jungle. Glad you called in. I will be here for a couple more minutes. I know we've had a couple people call in, try to get in touch with us. If you want, feel free. 404-946-3397. We gave our bold predictions. Nicholas in the chat room says Gio and Hill combined for 200-plus yards from scrimmage this week. That's a pretty good one. Michael Creedon says Gresham over 100 yards and a touchdown, and the Bengals win 28-20. I like that one. That's pretty good. Let's see here. Any more that I need to? Patrick Bateman, Dalton 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty solid one. No interceptions too. I got to throw that in there as well. I don't see anything else here in the chat room. Let's go score predictions, Anthony.
I'm going to be I'm glad I'm going first because I'm probably going to be the unpopular guy here. I see the Bengals losing in a shootout 38-35.
I will say this, you're staying true to form. You did say L at the beginning of the year. I have the chart here in front of me. So I will respect your cojones in saying that they lose.
Thank you.
Staying true to form. How about you, Scott? Score prediction for Sunday.
Well, I just got finished saying that Colts wouldn't score over 20, although I was kind of going to pick them to win. I'll go Bengals 24-17.
By the way, Scott is the only one out of this panel preseason to pick them winning this game. Just throwing that out there. Mickey, how about you? Score prediction?
I didn't pick them to win this one.
Nope, you got them as a loss.
And I had them losing to who? I had them undefeated at this point, right?
Yeah, you had them losing this as their first game.
All right, so I was off by 2 weeks. 37-24 Bengals.
37 points again. I like it. I think this is going to be a shootout. I boldly predicted that they'd hold the Colts to under 17 points. I don't think it'll happen with the way this defense is played. So I'm going to say 38-31 Bengals win in the Oildrome. I don't even know if that's what they call it. Lucas Oil Stadium, whatever. Terrible name for an arena. Let's go to the jungle line before we wrap up. Area code 703. Hi, who's this?
Hi, this is Richard Olson.
Hey, what's up, Rich? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's been fun listening to you guys talk because it was such a weird game, and and we have such a big game coming up this week, so it's been really interesting to talk. I heard you had a caller call from Dallas, and that kind of inspired me to call because I've been thinking this week that that's what the Bengals need to do is what Dallas has been doing is run the ball. They were talking on ESPN on Monday about how many fewer plays the Dallas defense is on the field because they're just running the ball so well. And I think that's what the Bengals need to do is they have 2 really good running backs. They have the potential just to keep the ball away from, and that way they can let their defense, not be on the field as much because right now our defense is just not where it was last year. So that was just my comments and wanted to say, hey, great show again, guys.
Appreciate the call, Richard. I'd be interested to see what the Colts defense ranks as far as against the rush this year. Maybe we can get that information before we head out of here. Because you're right, but the way the Bengals if you look at their yards per gain average, it's not great. It's right around 3 yards. You'd like it to be a little higher. But I think that also if they want to keep the ball away from Andrew Luck and they want to run the ball more or run it a little better, they need to get healthy up front too. I think Zeitler being out has hurt them. I'm not saying that Pollock can't play right guard, but you'd like to think Zeitler is probably a little bit better in that regard. Pollock also going up against his former team, so maybe he's going to have a little point to prove this weekend on Sunday against the Colts. But you'd like to see Hill really kind of get going and have one of those 100-yard games and maybe have Bernard with 50 yards rushing and 50 yards receiving. They are going to need that production out of the backfield and keep it away from Andrew Luck and company on offense. I think that's how you're going to win the game, prevent that offense from scoring. Appreciate the phone calls tonight. Glad everybody got in touch. Final thoughts as we wrap up episode 167 AC. By the way, it's the first time we've had all 4 of us back in a couple weeks. It's good to see everybody's faces. Good to get together and talk Bengals. Final thoughts as we wrap up, and before we get to our shout-outs, thank you for reminding me, Mickey. Final thoughts, AC?
I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless plug, and I apologize, but I put together a mailbag post for Cincy Jungle, and I post the best questions that readers and fans tweet at me. So if you have questions either about the team itself, the game last week, the upcoming game, tweet them at me at CJAnthonyCuy. I will respond to the best ones, and your questions will be up in an article on a post that I put up. So I hope that people send me some questions.
Get your questions.
Yeah, thank you. And I expect a pretty fun game this weekend. I that score prediction I put out could very well be the exact reverse, and the Bengals end up winning. I just see there's too many injuries, but they have shown a propensity to be able to overcome those and play some quality football, at least on one side of the ball per game. So, I think it'll be close either way.
Let's also, and Mickey, I'm glad you pointed this out. The Colts haven't exactly beaten anybody special here in this 4-game win streak. The first 2 games they lost to really good teams. And, maybe this is a chance for, the Bengals. They're going up against another quality opponent here in the AFC who's in first place in their division. So we'll find out which team's for real after Sunday. Final thoughts, though, Mick, as we wrap up?
Yeah, that is my final thought. The Colts barely held on against the Texans. This isn't some powerhouse team we're going up against. The Bengals are a little bit wounded right now, but they're more dangerous than the Colts are. I think this is a game we win, and everyone kind of simmers down, and John from Kentucky finds something else to complain about. This is the type of game that this team is built to win. The defense tightens up a little bit. I'm pretty excited about it. That's my final thought.
They're due for a loss, Scott. They haven't won 5 games in a row since 2009 when Peyton Manning was leading this team to they're due, and maybe the Bengals prevent them from getting that 5th win in a row this weekend.
They are. They're probably due for a loss. And the other thing that I think is being overlooked is, this is a Colts team that, is not as great as everyone's pumping them up to be. Their 2 losses at the beginning of the season are against the only 2 good teams they played. They've beaten a lot of cellar dwellers right now, so they're not exactly a great team yet. I still want to see them beat someone good, and I don't think it's going to be the Bengals. So,
well, I hope you're right. Before we get out of here, we always got to do our shout-outs. Shout-outs! Who are you giving a shout-out to this week, Scott?
This may be a first. I'm going with a player. I don't remember his Twitter handle, but Jeremy Hill. I'm giving him a shout-out for bringing the Icky Shuffle back, getting his
yeah.
That was the highlight of the game for me. I've been waiting to see a Bengal bring that back for years, and to see Hill break that out as a rookie, that was awesome.
We're going to get some cold cuts today.
Some cold cuts.
I like it. Solid shout-out. Scott, how about you, AC?
I'm going to shout out 3 people, and they're all guys that have their last name could be their first name. They have 2 first names. I'm going Frank Leonard. I'm going Mike Thomas, and a gentleman named Tom James who covers the Colts and retweeted a tweet I put out about a post. So Frank Leonard, Mike Thomas, Tom James are all of my shout-outs this week.
Mickey, how about you? Give us a shout-out.
My first one, and it's to my man Stephen Reed at Reed39, making a long-awaited appearance back in the chat room. I kind of had to coax him out. They have all those, stories where you say Candyman in the mirror 3 times or whatever. I had to throw Void out into the darkness, and Reed answered and came in to save us with some positive energy from all these negative Nancys we were dealing with tonight. My other one's going to be my man Fatal, who I'm still going to come to Miami and visit him, so if I don't shout him out, I feel like that door might be shut. So, long-time listeners, huge fans, Reed and Fatal, you guys are the man.
That's a good shout-out as well. Yeah, Stephen Reed, formerly of Name That Bengal Fan. We haven't done that in a while. He's a huge Bengals fan up in Canada, eh? So, Steve, glad to see you in the chat room tonight, although it was very brief. Glad to see you in here, and hope things are going well up in Canada. I'm going to give a shout-out to, and a shameless plug myself. It was on Fox Sports Toledo this morning, 12:30 WCWA, talking Bengals here in the Glass City with Anthony Bellino. So I'm giving him a shout-out. Anthony, thanks for having me on your show today. Appreciate it, and hopefully we can make that a regular occurrence here on 12:30 a.m. WCWA. And I'm sorry to all the UK listeners who wanted to listen on iHeartRadio. Unfortunately, you don't have access and it's blocked overseas. But I will do my best to get the audio if you want it. I can make that happen. So those are my shout-outs. If you want a shout-out here on Inside the Jungle, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Nick Suberling. Where can they follow you, Scott?
Probably got it.
He's muted. There you go. Now he's unmuted.
It helps if I unmute myself. They can follow me at Scott Bantel.
Mickey, how about
Scott Bantel.
I am at the same at Houday Fans.
I guess that's me. So, by the way, Scott is at Scott Bantel, in case anybody missed it. He was muted, he was unmuted, so at Scott Bantel. I'm at CJ Anthony CUI. Send me your questions.
We're getting better at this. These guys are starting to slowly pick up on the cues and know when it's time to talk. It's like we're a team. I like it. Again, make sure you join me Sunday after the game, immediately following the Bengals' hopeful win against the Indianapolis Colts, right here at CincyJungle.com for Inside the Jungle postgame. Scott called in on Sunday. He was one of those negative Nancys talking about Nugent, getting him out of here. But we had a ton of calls. We went an hour, and we were all calls. It was fantastic. So make sure you join me Sunday after the game right here at CincyJungle.com. We got some awesome iTunes reviews, and I meant to make that one of my shout-outs as well this week, so I apologize. I will get to those iTunes reviews next week as my shout-out. If you want to be shouted out and leave a great iTunes review, you can for Inside the Jungle. Appreciate everybody leaving the kind words. It's awesome to see Bengals fans from around the world chime in and let us know how you feel about the show. So thank you for the iTunes reviews. You've been fantastic. Also, don't forget, Inside the Jungle is a listener-supported show. If you like what we do each and every week here on Cincy Jungle and on the podcast, your contributions would go a long way in helping us on the show. I need to upgrade this mixer. I don't know if you heard it tonight. Every time I just tap one of these buttons, it messes up my microphone, and I got to get that fixed. But again, spnt.tv/Patreon if you'd like to support Inside the Jungle. Guys, like I said, it's been good to see everybody. You're awesome. I've missed seeing all three of you. It's good to have the Fearsome Foursome back together, and hopefully we'll see y'all next Wednesday.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt.
No pressure, right? And go Royals, right, Mickey? Whooped up on Anthony's Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, whatever it is.
Mine? Well, I mean, that's a subgroup, but yes. I root for them a little bit, yes.
We can all say we're all going to be rooting on Sunday for the Bengals. Make sure you keep it tuned in to Cincy Jungle for all the latest injury updates, all the latest Bengals signings. Apparently we've signed a new linebacker, so make sure you check out CincyJungle.com for all the updates. Everybody does a fantastic job with that. Episode 167 of Inside the Jungle in the can. Inside the Jungle is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. Special thanks to our associate producers, Andy Lanham, Larry Wilson, Mike Barty, and Good Setters. Again, check out Cincy Jungle for all your latest. We'll see you Sunday for the post-game show. Houday!
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 Great.